What is up, guys? It is Robert Cizak and bringing you my AFAST discussion, author discussion post. Really excited about this one. The person that I had that I luckily got to choose because her name just stood out to me, but also just like honestly just glad I got her because like I learned a lot about her. But it's Zora Neale Hurston. She's like it's pretty sick. So we're gonna go over like the early life and the basics, basically, where she was born and everything, and like her childhood. So what is up? Next slide. So she was born like January 7th, 1891, in Alabama, and she was the fifth child to be born from John Hurston and Lucy Potts Hurston. They moved to Eatonville, Florida, and it was actually kind of cool, Eatonville, because it was a rural community that was the first incorporated black township. Hurston even described it as a city of 5 lakes, 3 croquet courts, 300 brown skins, 300 good swimmers, plenty guavas, 2 schools, and no jailhouse. And yeah, so she kind of had um African Americans kind of had from that area that she came from had a more of a better experience. In other words, that like some other play areas like the South was facing a lot of discrimination. So she was coming from a pretty good place of like a childhood. So now we're gonna go on to the Eatonville and its significance. So yeah, once again, it was the first incorporated black township, and its just significance it was due to the fact that it was like one of the only black communities that showed success. Like she was able to see her father govern laws and her mother teach at Catholic churches, and so it's kind of cool to see some hope, even though there was a lot of darkness during that time. So early life. Although her life did not seem to be great and joyful, she did have a hard crash. Her mother did pass away at 13. Her dad remarried quickly, but she wasn't the nicest woman, and they would get in their fist fights at some times when she was younger. She worked multiple jobs, struggled at school, became a maid for like a lead singer in the Gilbert and Sullivan traveling troupe. She didn't end up graduating high school, and but it's kind of interesting. She actually went back to high school at age 26 um, in order to get in. She had to actually fake her age, and she made it seem that she was 16. She was actually born in 1901, so she was able to actually graduate. So that's kind of like an interesting fact that I would see about her. So contributions to African Americans in society. So Zora made huge contributions to the African American society through her well-known folklore writing. She moved to New York City after writing a letter to Professor Grover on June 8th, 1932, and it explained that she majored in anthropology at Columbia University and wanted to give a concert of Negro folklore to accurately represent the African lifestyle that she was living and that other people were living. She traveled to both Haiti, Jamaica to study the religions of the African diaspora, and Hurston often incorporated her research into her fictional writings. So one of her works, she started publishing short stories as in 1920, and in 1935 she actually published Mules and Men, and Langston Hughes and Oswald then created the play Mulebone based on her story. So she published 3 books between 1934 and 1939, and one of her most popular works was The Eyes Were Watching God. And the story was about the crazy life of Janie Crawford. She focused on her work on the experience of a black woman through stories, fictional writing, short stories, and much more. Similarities. Her storylines related to themes of racial discrimination, passing, and feminism. From 1920 to 1926, Fawcett's position as literary editor of the Crisis, the NAACP magazine, allowed her to contribute to the Harlem Renaissance by promoting literary work that related to social movements of this era. Clearly, Hurston and Fawcett are similar because of their writing contributions in to the society during that time. Both had a huge impact during the Harlem Renaissance, which is the main reason why one can draw a significant comparison to these two women. So the similarities between Zora Neale Hurston and Jessie Redmond Fawcett. They were Jessie was an African American editor, poet, novelist, and educator. Her literary work helped sculpt African American literature in the 1920s as she focused on portraying a true image of African American life and history. The fictional characters she created in her novel were working professionals, which was an inconceivable concept to African American society during this time. So that is my works cited for the information that I gathered. I really hope you guys enjoyed my author discussion. I know I had a really good time learning about Zora Neale Hurston and her contributions to the African American culture. Also, I think it's really interesting that there is someone who was back then had a successful childhood and was able to take that success and have that good life given to her, and she was able to make something out of it and not just throw that away, that she was lucky to have that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you never.